Welcome to Parenting Tips with Dr. Glow on the WDKX Podcast Network, where the conversation never ends. I'm reminding you, parents, that education is in my DNA. As most of you know, I am the mother of three daughters, birth daughters, and I have a few bonus daughters as well. Anyway, today I decided with school returning to session, whether college or high school or middle school or elementary school, I talk about the best conversation you can have with your children. Years and years ago, my middle school daughter was one that I always said would make my brain spin because she was a thinker. She was an intellect, and she definitely was a conversationalist. But I found that when I would ask her how was her school day, her response was regular. And so for a few times I accepted that. And then one day I'm like, wait a minute. I'm tired of hearing regular. So what I realized is that the best possible conversation we can have with our children is to discuss his or her day and, bring about some curiosity and patiently listen to what they have to say. So you can pick up on their emotions, their feelings. You can learn a lot about what really happened that day instead of hearing fine, or in my case, I heard regular. You can learn about their thoughts, you can learn about their fears, and you can learn about the world around them and how it is impacting them, whether it's teachers, whether it is their fellow classmates, or other folks involved between the morning they left and the afternoon they came back. So I'm going to share today 4 questions I would encourage you to use when you want to have the best possible conversation. Now, realize you can't rush this. You have to be patient and allow them to process your question and then respond. This is not intended to be an interrogation. It is not intended to be rapid fire where you want a response within seconds. No. What you want to do is have the conversation. So the first question is, what made you laugh today? Allow them to process that. There's a lot of responses that can come from that. What you want to do is to bring the happy emotion to surface, even though something may have happened negatively at the end of the day. But you want to literally wait for them to process it and think about what made them laugh. And hopefully there was something that made them laugh. The second question is, who did you sit with at lunch? There's more to that question than meets the eye. You're trying to find out if they're socializing with others and who those others may be. It will probably bring about somebody in social studies or somebody whose locker is next to mine. It could bring about a variety of responses, but they're going to process your question. And they may even talk about what they ate in the cafeteria if they're not taking their lunch. So that question really involves some more things coming from them than what meets the eye. The third question is, and this one is what I really love, is what was the most difficult or hardest part of your day. Why do we want that? Well, some of those difficult things that happened during the day may be impacting their grades, their emotional being. They're wanting to return back to the school or the classroom. So if we're asking what was the hardest part of their day, again, we're allowing them to process that question. It could be as simple as I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't have enough time, but I had to go to the bathroom and I was late. And because I was late, I had to go to the office and on and on and on. And that's, to us, may not be a major thing, but to them it might be. The other part of that, especially if they're in college and you're asking that question, there may be something related to the teacher. There may be something related to their textbook. It may be something related to their access to the internet. So depending on the age, the grade level, college, that question will bring all kinds of responses. And again, we want to listen, not necessarily solve the problem, but that question will allow for your child to either say how things were resolved or an opportunity for you to ask, well, how did you handle it? Or was it resolved? And again, we're causing them to process and think about their day. And you gain a lot of information. The fourth question, which is kind of like up in the air, what I call a blue sky question. Well, was there anything today that surprised you? Now that one really is like, you don't know what's going to come out of their mouths, okay? It may be, I was able to finish my paper at 6 a.m. for my 8 a.m. class, and I'm surprised that I was able to survive that hour and a half class. And within your heart, you want to say, why did you wait until the last minute to finish that paper? So you got to allow yourself to not have judgment at the moment. Maybe that's a conversation you can have later about planning their time and so on. But what surprised them that day? It could be very simple, such as, the teacher extended our time for an assignment that was due, or a classmate gave them a piece of candy. It could be anything. And to them, it was a surprise. And for you, you're gaining more information about your child. So psychologists love to tell us the value of communication. And communication is a two-way street. So your conversation you have with your child, you want it to be the best one. And try to, if you have more than one child, ensure that you're doing these conversations individually, separately, not all 2 or 3 or 4 at the same time. You want to kind of thread it through the afternoon or the evening so that it's just the two of you and you're focused on their responses. Thank you for listening to Parenting Tips with Dr. Glow on the WDKX Podcast Network, where the conversation never stops. Question: will you build this list of 4 questions in your daily routine when school starts?